What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? It's your boy back with another one. People, in today's video, we are going to discuss whether or not Julius Malema is the right fit to rule South Africa. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we family, right? Holler. People, as a proud Pan-Africanist, as a proud African, as a proud South African, I would like to say that it's unanimous that the rest of Africa believes and thinks that Julius Malema should be the president of South Africa based on his manifesto, his rhetoric, his beliefs, and his utterances. Now, why are we saying this, or why are they saying this? To be honest, Julius Malema resonates with the young Africans, right, who are truly disenfranchised, right? And this whole delusion of wealth and riches is now firmly out of their grasp, right? And let's be honest, right? Julius Malema's messaging speaks directly to the hearts and minds of African people. Now, his messaging may not always hit home with South Africans, right? Most of it does, but the one sticking point is foreigners coming into South Africa freely, right? Most South Africans do not believe in the open border policy, which I think is a shame, to be honest, because if we fix South Africa, like everyone is saying, let's first fix South Africa. Let's say we fix South Africa, we get South Africa back to the glory days, right? And then we open the borders. Will the problems not persist? So I'm with Malema on the whole open border system. I'm with Malema on the whole land without compensation. I'm with Malema on the whole uh, Afrikaner community going over to America with refugee status because they don't see a future here and they feel like they're under threat. Everything that Malema says, I personally agree with Malema, right? And I truly believe in his manifesto, the way it's projected, the way it is lined out, his messaging, everything about Malema. For me, I promise you, I think Malema's got the right mentality. He says the right things. He does it and he speaks broadly to the African continent. Now, you may not agree with everything that Malema says, right? But I can tell you there is. People look at Malema and say Malema is anti-white and is anti-European. And with good reason. You see, everyone who has gained illegitimately, ill-gotten gains at that, will not agree with Malema's messaging. Can you name me one person or one family that you know of personally that unduly gained from apartheid, that has now decided to say, we have all this that we've accumulated over the past 30, 40, 50, 60 years during apartheid, right? And we are willing to give away half, three quarters, a quarter of anything that they've gotten. Do you see where me and Malema are coming from? To be very honest with you, you cannot build a country with people who still want to hold on to ill-gotten gains, who do not want to relinquish the ill-gotten gains because they do not believe in equality. Now, what is driving this? People, if you, okay, let me give you an example. Jacob Zuma benefited unduly from the arms deal. Yeah? The public protector found that he benefited, right? And she requested or demanded that he pay back some of the ill gotten proceeds, right? It's fair. I think that is fair. Okay. Now, if you unduly benefited from apartheid, don't you think that you, having a heart, having a soul, having a mind, can think to say, you know what, we've benefited unduly. And if I am proudly South African and I really want South Africa to work for everyone, for all of us, let me play my part and give back a quarter or half or three quarters. Since I've got means, I've got systems in place, I've got tools, and I can multiply my riches again because I've already got systems in place, right? And give those that are not even given a start. Because always remember one thing, right? We don't all have we don't all have the same starting blocks in life, right? Some people are already, some people by the time they're 16, they've already, they already have what, uh, learner's driver's license. They've already in line to inherit a whole business. They're in line to inherit, and then you get some poor kid that's just born with nothing because their parents were dispossessed. Okay, so we know the history about that, right? Now, Malema is the right fit for South Africa because he brings Pan Africanism to the forefront, right? Malema does not talk about trying to please the Europeans, the West, or anything like that, right? Of which the ANC plays that role, right? Because the ANC is more center, whereas Malema is fully to the left, right? I'm saying Malema resonates with the African people. So even on the African continent, if you go out of South Africa, right? Everyone talks about Julius Malema like he should lead South Africa because he speaks directly to the African people. And I'm beginning to realize that Malema was, when he was campaigning, he's actually not just campaigning in South Africa or for South Africa. Malema's whole campaign was aimed at Africa and at Africans as a whole. So much so that in Namibia, there's an EFF. I was shocked to learn that other countries have now adopted the EFF model, right? I don't know. I also heard there's an EFF in Zimbabwe, if I'm not mistaken. Someone said to me there's an EFF in Zimbabwe as well. So I still need to check up on that. But I know the EFF in Namibia. I was like, wow, this brand. This is the first time. This is the first time I've actually seen a political party have subsidiaries. I mean, it's not exactly subsidiaries, but just the mere fact that the EFF and its messaging and its approach has been adopted by other nations. That says a lot. Now, Malema may not have won the elections, but his words, his voice, his messaging resonates throughout Africa. Young Africans see Malema as a leader, as a future leader. To most, that is scary. To some, that is a welcome wind of change because Africa needs to stop looking like, feeling like Europe or America. We need Africa to have an African feel with an African leader who speaks to the African person or to the African people with an African voice and an African messaging, right? So with his no-nonsense approach to westernization and to racism and to all these things, it just hits home to the ordinary African person. I mean, I cannot think of any other party that has the messaging that the EFF has or that Julius Malema has about wealth distribution. Can you think of any other party that stands firm on wealth distribution? You see, one thing I've also began to notice is that, or one thing that I've come to realize is that when you're in opposition benches, right, you will say anything and everything that the ruling party is doing wrong, right? But when you're in the hot seat, your rhetoric changes. I mean, I've said it before. I mean, Gaten McKenzie is a good example of when he wasn't in power. He was he was Abahambe, Abahambe, Abahambe. Now he's in power. You don't even see him on social media anymore. You don't see him running after illegal foreigners anymore. So, do you want a flip flopping leader like Gaten McKenzie? Or do you want a true African leader who speaks to the African people about things that matter most to the African people, like Julius Malema does? We all know Cyril is a puppet for the West. We all know he's working for the Stellenbosch Mafia. We all know that. I mean, he cannot deny that himself because they are funding this party as well. So he's got to take whatever they say because they're funding him as well, right? Everybody knows that. So, what options do we have? If Julius Malema takes over, or Julius Malema becomes president, we will lose AGOA. We will lose PEPFAR. We will lose aid. People, Donald Trump came in and he first thing he did was cut aid with a pro-Western leader in power, and he just cut it off. Now, what does that tell you? They cannot be trusted. We have a party like the DA who is openly working with Israel and America in Africa. You see, parties like the DA that claim to be, we fought against a party, but yet you support the Zionists. That just don't make sense. How can you how can you fight against apartheid and yet you are a Zionist yourself? And yet Zionism is apartheid, is racism. How does that make sense to anybody who feels like the DA is the right fit for South Africa and all that? I say it very bluntly, the DA is a very racist party. Everybody knows it. John Steenhuisen, the whole DA, those are Zionists. They openly show it. They openly say it. If you, as a South African, knowing the bad history of South Africa, right, and you go and you support Israel and what Israel is doing to the Palestinians, are you truly South African? Are you truly in lockstep with the new South Africa? Or do you wish the old South Africa to come back? Right? And that is where people like Malema step in. You see, we need people like Malema to put people like John Steenhuisen, Gaten McKenzie, Helen Zeller, AfriForum, and any other right wing, whatever, parties in their places because there's no place in Africa for right wing politics. There's just no place for it. There isn't. So, any people who are on any parties that are right wing affiliated, right, that feel like they're going to side with America, they're going to side with Israel, there's just no place for you because no right minded African person is going to side with a detrimental, suicidal, genocidal state, country, or party. Now, what Israel is doing is actually committing a genocide, but at the same time, it's also self imploding, right? I mean, Israel is slowly but surely committing its own suicide because this is the most well documented genocide in history. And when they done, with the assistance of America, when they done all that they can do to Palestine, history, the law will take its course. And guess what? All right wing politicians, including the DA, will be held almost accountable for supporting such genocidal intentions, right? There's no party you can tell me in Africa that wishes to blow a people to smithereens. So, if you listen to Malema when he talks about Israel, Hamas, and the conflict in the Middle East, for example, he says it perfectly well. Racist people will support what Israel is doing. Freedom fighters will support Hamas because they're fighting for their own freedom. And that is their land. And it clearly says so. Mandela said it. South Africa is not free until Palestine is free. And Malema embodies that because he openly said he would arm Hamas. Now, if you're a South African and you truly believe that Israel has a right to exist in its current form, then you are delusional. You yourself are racist. Then you yourself are a Zionist. Then you yourself don't deserve to be in South Africa. You do not deserve to be a South African. Yes, you are entitled to your own opinion, but you are not entitled to a racist opinion. And that is what we fought for. And that's what Malema stands for. So, is Malema the right candidate to rule South Africa going forward? My answer, yes. The Continental answer, yes, because he is seen as a young progressive leader who does not tolerate racism or any other forms of discrimination. Now, can you argue with that? I don't think so. Next, we get into the pros of having Malema as a president. Hello. People, let us talk about the pros of having Malema as a president. One, South Africa will be fully integrated into Africa. That's number one. Number two, Africa will be united as one. We will not be divided into different countries. This thing of countries was established by the Europeans when they came. And it's still a shock to me that in 2025, the concept of countries still exists within Africa. It's fine for that to exist in Europe. It's a European concept. That's fine. But in Africa, we cannot be having countries because we are one. Africa has always been one. Yes, there were tribes divided by rivers, divided by that, but there were no countries. And in most cases, yes, there used to be fights over tribes. Yes, there used to be fights in that and that. But for the most part, Africans used to travel north, east, west, south without passports. All they needed was permission from the other villages, from the other um, territories to get through, and they'd be allowed and they'd walk through. Right? Number three, Malema is the only leader that speaks of uniting Africans. Number four, Malema is the only leader that speaks truth to power and the only leader that sees South Africans for what they really are, the racist ones for what they really are, right? And he openly said it. Those that don't want to be here must openly take up that offer from Donald Trump and they must leave on that refugee status permit. You can't argue with that. You can, if you don't want to build South Africa, if you don't want to help build Africa, Malema said it clearly, please leave. The pros of Malema being a president is that he openly said he will arm Hamas. So in this day and age where America, a superpower, is aiding Israel, I think the fourth or the fifth strongest military in the world, aiding them to bomb a people. That says a lot. And the current leadership of South Africa is not doing anything to aid the Palestinians. And here Malema comes and he says he will arm Hamas. We need a leader like that. You cannot be a country that fought against apartheid. And now you see apartheid happening in another part of the world and you do not do anything physically about it? No. South Africa needs to arm Hamas. If not, South Africa needs to send military. Dude, the South African army is currently sitting and doing nothing. So let's sign up. Let's all go and let's go and help Hamas fight the racist Zionists in Palestine. You all agree, right? Yes, of course. You cannot disagree with that. I mean, if you don't want to go fight, that's you. That's cool. Let us who want to go fight, let us go. Help us sign up. But guess what? The South African government is denying South Africans the right to go fight. But they're denying, the South African government is denying people to go and fight on behalf of the Palestinians. And yet, they are allowing Zionist supporters to go and fight in the Israeli army on behalf of the Zionists. Please help me make sense of that. Why are resistance loving people being denied the right to go and fight for Palestine? And yet racist people from Cape Town, from Joburg, are going over to fight for Israel. I was shocked to learn that there are South Africans serving in the IDF and no South Africans serving in Hamas. This government really needs to wake up. And guess what? The government, just like how you allowed visas for nomads, you should allow people to have the freedom to go and fight as they please. And I know if Malema comes to power, we will be granted that right to say that anyone who wants to go and help fight in Palestine, here's your visas, ready to go. And knowing that he said he's going to arm, do you see like how they armed the people in how the Zionists were arming their own settlers so they can give them, I think they handed over something like 100,000 guns, or was it 10,000 guns? 10,000 guns to the settlers so that they can terrorize the local population. And I know if Malema comes to power, he'll be handing out weapons so that we can fly with those weapons and we can go and help defend Palestine. Because that's what it's all about. So if you're not about Palestine and you're all about Israel, then that simply means you are not for Africa and you are not for South Africa, and therefore you should leave. And that is why I say Helen Ziller, John Steenhuisen, they must gladly leave South Africa. Please leave South Africa. We do not need your racist presence in South Africa. And it's evident in Cape Town that you are racist. And we know it, we see it, we feel it. The neglect of colored communities is loud and it is deafening. So we do not need that. If anyone, anywhere, please, I don't know. We just can't see a way out because now there are disillusioned people who believe that the DA is the only party that can rule South Africa. To a large extent, that seems to be the case because they are consistently voted the best run city in South Africa. Gotta give them credit for that, right? Right. But if we can get the DA to rule without having racist leaders at the top, that would be great. But the racist leaders of the DA, they should leave. The DA should stay. The ones that are not Zionists, the ones that are not racist, the ones that want to see progress. So, if Malema comes to power, he becomes president. He decides he's going to now outrightly, I don't know. Hopefully, he doesn't do the democratic approach. Hopefully, he takes the whole communist, socialist, uh, one party dictator approach, because South Africa needs to move forward. And the only way for South Africa to move forward, South Africa needs a dictator, a strong arm dictator, strong world dictator, someone like Malema, because the reason why South Africa is not moving forward is that democracy is killing South Africa. Do you know why? Do you know why South Africa moved forward throughout apartheid? One party was in power. There was no democracy. It was just a one party state, basically. And that's why when they just thought something they did, they pushed ahead with it. Why do you think Israel is going ahead? They just believe, those right wingers just believe in just pushing ahead in whatever they do. And so South Africa needs. And I think Malema is the best fit for that. He's the right candidate for that whole notion. Next, we get into the cons of Malema being the president. Holla. Phew, man. People, the cons of Malema being a president. Well, there isn't any cons from an African perspective. There are cons from a European perspective. I mean, from the European side, the con will be he's going to bring communism back. He's going to take the land without compensation. He's going to be racist. He's going to kill the white people. He's going to drive the white people out. He's going to do everything is just to do with the white people, right? So that's what I'm saying. From a European perspective, from a Western perspective, there's a lot of cons as to why Malema can get into power because he's a leftist leader, and that's what they don't want, right? Cool. From an African perspective, there's just no cons. There isn't. Because he speaks directly to the African people. He says exactly what the African people want to hear. Now, the only con would be local South Africans who do not understand the concept of one Africa, one people, one military, one parliament, one police force, one law, one president, are the ones that are holding this whole notion back. And that's the reason why the EFF did not win or did not even grow in the last elections. Because that notion of open borders is what the locals did not grasp. Now, if you really look at it, there is nothing bad about having open borders. We just have to have better policing. Open borders is fine. The police needs to be beefed up. That's the only thing that's needed. So, in closing, Malema should be given an opportunity to lead the country. I think with his messaging, his mentality, his attitude, I think that Malema will be able to transform South Africa into the truly African country and into a truly African giant that South Africa needs to be. Because right now, South Africa is a replica of Europe, it's a replica of the United States. South Africa is basically Europe situated in Africa. And that needs to change. We need an African country in an African continent or an African country on the African continent. We do not need a European country on the African continent. Because what the white people did, they simply came to Africa, rebuilt Europe in Africa, and that is why you see Africa looking more and more like Europe. We don't need that. I mean, when you go to Europe, there's nothing that reminds you of Africa. Nothing. But when the Europeans come here, they feel at home because it looks just like home. That too needs to change. And I think Malema is the only one who can really change it. That's what I honestly believe. Let me know if I was on the money with this one or if I totally missed it with this one. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we family, right? Holla.